Hey, what's up guys? In this interview, I got the opportunity to sit down with a friend of mine. His name is Troy Romalski. We met at a mastermind a few years ago, and he has built several multiple 7 to 8 figure businesses selling products on Amazon. And in this interview, we talked everything from how he got started in Amazon. In fact, he used to perform on a cruise ship. So how do you make that transition from a performer on a cruise ship to running Amazon FBA businesses? What are some of the challenges that he faced in his early days? And ultimately, how did he find success in Amazon FBA, and what he's doing now to scale up his businesses even more? I really think this episode is going to be valuable for those people that currently want to start on Amazon or is already selling on Amazon. We talked a lot about team building and the different metrics, how to hire for people, and so on and so forth to run the business for you. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of The Tom Wang Show. So welcome to Thursday night's weekly coaching call. Super excited to be here tonight with all of you. I have my friend Troy here. And Troy is actually going to be sharing his story about how he got started in the Amazon FBA world. Troy, you have a really cool story. But I say that about every guest. So, but no, I actually really like your story. I think you come from I think it's a lot more relatable than a lot of other people's story. I think you're just anyways, I'll let you introduce yourself. But guys, if you guys can save all your questions till the very end, that would be great. Troy's gonna, I'm gonna ask him some questions and save your questions to the end. Troy can answer. And I guess without further ado, let's jump right into it. Troy, why don't you just give everybody a quick introduction of who you are, and then we can kind of go all the way back to pre Amazon days.
Okay, so let's see. My name is Troy Romalski, and I started on Amazon in 2013, and it became my full-time job in 2014. And since then, I've just made a living selling physical products online. I guess my resume so far is that I'm running multiple brands, with the strongest being a dietary supplement brand. I am an 8-figure seller. I think, let's see, we are at five separate brands currently, but only one of them is dietary supplements. The rest are in different verticals, largely because I got scared and I wanted to diversify out of supplements. But we're still, supplements is still doing well for us. We still continue to launch. And now I'm moving into a phase where I want to acquire more brands. And so I've been doing a lot of due diligence and bugging Tom a lot about his exit that he had, and seeing what I can learn. And we've submitted a couple LOIs and haven't had anything come to fruition yet. I have done a couple of the brands that I acquired through private deals, where I didn't have to go through the process of acquiring a brand through a broker. And it's a little bit more, that environment's a little more cutthroat, moves a little more fast paced than I've been able to move at this point. But before the end of Q1, I want to acquire at least one brand and keep going from there.
Wow, I had no idea you were, I know you were asking questions, but I didn't know you were actually executing. So that's awesome. So you started Amazon in 2013. That's kind of like the early days. I love to ask you about the early days of Amazon, because that's kind of I guess the gold rush, right? That was the days where this is what I heard. You can literally throw anything up on Amazon. You can buy 50 reviews, which was perfectly legal. And then you would just sit back and collect money. How much truth is there to that statement?
There's a certain amount of truth to that statement. At the same time, there's so much more technique and so much more knowledge about how Amazon works now. And so there was a lot of guessing that was done back in the day. And I guess it was like anything, based on that gold rush is how everything became what it is now. But yeah, we would put up my first product that started selling. I was like, okay, so I got this product up. What do I do now? And a friend of mine was like, oh, you need some reviews. What's your ASIN? And I told her, and she went and she reviewed it without buying the product. And it was very much just ask friends or family sort of thing. And I think with 8 reviews, I started getting organic sales. It was super fast. Yeah.
Can I ask what the first product was?
The first product was a dietary supplement. It was, Well, this is the first one that actually sold. I put up a couple that didn't sell, but the first one that actually like started selling was it was saffron extract, which was very timely. Like Dr. Oz had done a thing, and it was like if you could time it right, if you could get something that Dr. Oz was talking about, then and it was popular at the time, you could kind of ride the wave. And everybody at the time was putting in their title like as seen on Dr. Oz and as seen on TV, which is like, you know, huge no-nos and stuff you can't do nowadays. And we actually got that product taken down by Oprah's lawyers. Oprah's law firm actually came after us for that one. Well, we actually cited the episode. We actually tried to make it very clear inside the listing that Dr. Oz does not, you know, support individual brands, and he does not promote individual brands. But we do have the ingredient that he talked about in that episode, and then we also, like, we cited the episode. We thought we did a good job, but at the same time, or I say we, but it was really just me. I thought I did a good job of referencing, like, hey, like he talked about this. I'm not trying to claim that he actually promoted my product, but that didn't stop the attorneys from taking us down. And so it was, you know, an intellectual property infringement pretty quickly.
Were you like shitting your pants? Because I assume this is like kind of your first like lawsuit, I think.
Yeah, this was, oh geez. At this point, I was making enough of a living to support myself off of one product that, like, this is, you know, 9 months in, 10 months in, something like that, or maybe about a year, whatever. But it was at this point where it's like all my money was being generated by this one product, and all of a sudden it was gone, and I was being sued, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to get a job. Like, how is this gonna happen? And then, like, it was a large amount of pleading that happened on my side of the table. Mm-hmm. And they eventually said, all right, we'll drop it. If you change the listing, then we'll just let you go. You obviously didn't mean any harm. Because I was like, hey, look at my listing of what I actually said compared to all the other listings that are out there that are saying like as seen on Dr. Oz and all this other stuff. Right. And so it was like, I was trying to do the right thing, and this really sucks that you guys like called me on it, but I understand your point. I won't do it again. Right. Please, can I have my listing back and release it? Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's good. Keep going. That's sweet. So let's kind of go back to like pre-Amazon day. So pre-2013, like how did you even stumble upon this Amazon thing?
I had played around with, I don't know if I ever told you. Did I tell you this? I had played around with like CPA marketing and stuff like that. I had been in the mortgage industry for a little bit. It was kind of like my day job at the time. And I was like, hey, if we could ever figure out how to do a good job of generating mortgage leads online, then we could do really well in this space. And that just started me down a path of saying, like, if I could do more marketing online, then there's something here. And I mean, this is so early on and stuff. And then I dabbled in doing affiliate marketing and some CPAs sort of lead gen for some places. And then ultimately push came to shove, and all those things had issues with them that boiled down to control. You didn't control the product. You didn't control certain aspects about the listing. And so eventually I put it on the shelf, and I was like, you know what, this is neat. I can't quite figure it out. I can't make a living at it. So I'm going to put it away. And if I ever come back to it, I'm going to come back to it in some way that I own the product and I own the decisions, so that I can make the changes that I want to make. Right.
But even before that, what were you doing on the cruise ships?
Yeah. So my background is gymnastics and martial arts. And so I was making a living at the time in Los Angeles doing stunts and aerial acrobatic performing. And then my wife and we decided to put together an aerial act, and we started performing not only around LA and Orange County, but then we joined up with cruise ships, and we toured for the most part around the world, performing on cruise ships, doing aerial acrobatics, went to, 40 different countries, something like that. And just had a really good time. It was a really, really good chapter of our life. Yeah. And then the idea was, well, okay, so we want to have a family. How are we going to do that? Because that obviously breaks up the act. And, is it going to be me out there performing and doing stunts while she's, at home with the kids? And how are we going to have a family life that way? And so I was like, all right, no problem. Like, I guess I'll just go back and try and start another internet business. And so we had this time in between contracts where we were on land, and it was like 6 or 8 weeks. And I had stumbled upon a PDF that was essentially how to start a supplement business and, contract manufacturers and kind of the nuts and bolts of how to put together a product or a product line and stuff like that. And so that was kind of where I started. And during that time period, I think I was also working at a flying trapeze school. So I was doing a flying trapeze school. I was playing a pirate at night, and I was trying to put together this supplement brand too. And then we were leaving in 8 weeks, 10 weeks, something like that on a cruise ship. And that was kind of how it all started. And then, so I had 7 months on that cruise ship to kind of grow it to a point where hopefully we could make a living from it when we got off the ship.
And how did that plan pan out?
You know what? It did okay. It was like, okay, like there was, I mean, a significant amount of problems logistically. I mean, it's really hard to make a phone call from different countries or from a cruise ship. And the internet is just like, we take it for granted now. It was just not in that state back in 2013, especially on a cruise ship. Like it was hard to stream a YouTube video. Oh, wow. You had to pay for internet by the minute. I don't know if that's still the case on most cruise ships now. I think a lot of cruise ships, you can stream Netflix or do whatever, assuming there is cruises going nowadays. But the internet was not the same. That, and it's like, when you're in the middle of South America in like some coffee shop and they have Wi-Fi, but it's just, the speed is terrible. You get disconnected all the time, and trying to go through and sort of build up an Amazon business while you're going through those hurdles, it was very challenging. Not to mention that like the supplement business is notorious for being a little bit shady, which I didn't realize at the time. And so we would have problems with like the wrong labels, the wrong bottles, the wrong product getting shipped to Amazon, and just trying to sort that out. Nevertheless, it got to this point where it was like, all right, I think I'm eking out enough of a living at the end of that 7 months that I was like, this is it. Like, we're going to get off the ship and I'm not going to take a job. I'm just going to focus on growing this, and it's going to pay at least enough of our bills to get us by. And then sure enough, like the day that we were getting off the ship, Amazon lost all of my inventory that day. Like that morning, no sales, no inventory, no nothing. And I was like, oh my gosh, all this months of work. And this is what I was hanging my hat on. I don't have any job waiting for me. And suddenly we're not making any money. And it took a couple of weeks, but eventually Amazon found it. But yeah, that was the long and short of getting off a cruise ship and depending on Amazon.
Right. Awesome. So supplements, I mean, there's so much I want to ask you, but like supplements, it's notoriously to be kind of like competitive, and not kind of competitive, very competitive. And there's like a lot of black hat activities and sellers just basically screwing each other and like launching nuclear wars against each other. Like, so how have you kind of, how are you able to currently play in that field? I mean, yeah, like, is it every day you're just like, oh my God, like what happened to this listing? What happened to that listing? Like, how are you, selling supplements on Amazon in the current state?
There's some of it depends on like the market, the product niche, even within supplements that you're going after. And so we started early on going into health specific formulations, which turned out to be less shady than other market niches within supplements. But at the same time, it was still very hyper competitive, and it's still seen its share of problems along the way. But at least it allowed me to sort of like build up my war chest, so to speak, of a few different things. And so you cross paths with service providers over time that are able to help you troubleshoot some things. Like I've never resorted to retaliation tactics. Mm-hmm. Like I've been able to navigate at least to a certain extent because of the brand reputation that we've built over time. At least I think so. Mm-hmm. I know that we have not endured the same problems that other supplements have, but like, man, there's still been like a fair share of shady activity from everything from like 1-star reviews and my product listing getting taken down, or like people injecting into the back end, adult terms, or other things that get you flagged for like hazmat and stuff like that. Like
uploading reviews, like everything.
It's just part of the game. And I don't know if I took it for granted because I was there before it started happening. And so as it happens, it's sort of like one wave at a time. And it's like, here's, this sort of tidal wave of this black hat method is rolling through, and how do we deal with it? And you sort of get that under control. And then there's another one that comes, but you take it one at a time. And as it comes, you end up discovering new ways to sort of defend your listing, or new ways to pay attention, and making new connections with different people or different service providers that might be able to help you out in the future. And so that's part of why like maintaining a network is so important. Even though we're alone for a lot of this job, you're just sitting at home by yourself, or maybe you have like one or two people that are helping you. You're not in this alone. And so even, what do we got? 217 people. So there's 217 people here.
Woo!
And we're getting close. And so like, there's techniques to be learned, and there's people to connect with. And this is a group mindset, and your network will help you out over time. And that's just how we've been able to do it. Yeah,
no, absolutely. So you mentioned that you have supplements and you have 4 other brands or 5 other brands?
4
other brands. Like, what niche are they in?
Mainly like kitchen and coffee. And then also we have one in sports and outdoors.
Okay. And then are those the ones, when did you start those? Or did you said you acquired one of them, right?
Acquired 2.
You acquired 2. Okay.
We've acquired 2 over the past year, and the other ones just kind of popped up throughout that time. The idea was like, well, everybody tells us supplements is so competitive. What if we just took everything that we learned, without being, without doing shady tactics against other people, but just like, it was so hard to like fight tooth and nail to claw to where we are in supplements. Like, what if we did that in other verticals? And it turns out it works pretty well.
Do you find other verticals to be a lot easier?
Yeah, like the days of like low hanging fruit and easy pickings, like those are kind of behind, at least, with the respect of what they were like in 2013. But yeah, there's still plenty of room to launch a product, to do well, to grow, and to do it, relatively consistently.
Well, I mean, you believe in the business enough that you're putting your own money and buying these Amazon businesses. Yeah, are you buying through SBA loans or?
No, so far I've paid cash. I paid cash for one, and then we worked out an earn-out method on the other one. That went pretty well, like seller carryback. But going forward, like I do have pre-approval for an SBA loan, subject to the business itself. But that's proved to be a little bit difficult because these businesses are moving pretty quickly, and there's some institutional money that's come in to try and buy them.
Right.
And so I'm like, hey, I come like waving my little like piece of paper that says, I have approval, I can buy. And they're like, hey, this guy has cash. Like, we'll go with the guy who has cash.
Yeah. Sorry. For those that are not familiar with SBA loans, basically like in the States, not in Canada, in the States, you guys have this government, I guess, program where you can actually, you can only you only need to put 10% down to buy like a small business, and then the government will lend you the 90%. It's like a mortgage, right?
It's a government insured loan. And so like an actual bank will lend you the money. It's called the Small Business Administration. The actual bank will lend you the money. It's 10% down. And I think the interest rate we have offered right now is, it works out to be prime plus a margin. And so it's 5.25%, I think currently, the last time I looked at it.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, buying businesses for 10% down, that's
10% down, 5.25% interest rate paid back over 7 years. And when you're looking at businesses that, you can acquire for a multiple somewhere between 3 and 4x, like the numbers work out pretty well. They work out pretty darn well. And so it's like, why wouldn't we? Yeah.
Yeah. Because the second that you acquire these businesses, they're already like generating cash flow already. The day that you acquire them, they're already generating cash flow. So you put 10% down. First, maybe 3 months. Do you know what the payback period, like 3-6 months ish? I guess it depends on the business, right?
To pay back the loan, or what do you mean?
Yeah, pay back the 10%, your down payment.
To recoup.
I
your
guess
10%?
that all depends on the business. That's too general of a question to ask, right?
Yeah, you have to come 10% out of pocket, or actually like the terms they'll allow is that I think actually 5% out of pocket and 5% can be seller finance, and then they'll kick in the remaining 90%. But I don't think you're going to get a seller to carry that 5% on an FBA business in this environment. They'll ask you to pay that remainder.
Right. So what are some tactics that you've used that really help you to grow your business? I mean, I'm sure like I've talked to you before where you have, you do a lot of things, you try a lot of different things. Can you share with the students a little bit about, I have students here that haven't launched a product on Amazon. I have students here that already launched a product doing 10K, 20K, 50K, 100K, whatever it might be. Nice. So it's a very wide range of people, but I want to maybe focus a little bit on those people that already have a product on Amazon right now. What are just some, you can just brain dump, right? What are some of the things that you tried in the past that can like really move the needle?
I think the biggest thing is just product optimization. I think so many people forget about this. Like they put a product up and they're so happy to get a product up, they just let it go and they forget to test different titles, test different images, look at what the competition's doing. And like we're trying to optimize our products, all of them, at least once a year. That's the plan. And it's just about continuously testing. And I was actually having a big discussion with my team about this today, is that like if you look at the way like an algorithm works, and this has been evident to me on Facebook when I make a post, or when you look at Instagram, or I think it's really like I think TikTok kind of takes it to the extreme of the way that they do it. I'm not on TikTok, but I've just played around with it a little bit. But anyways, just understanding that Amazon can't just set their methodology to be a certain way where it's like, they have these established products and they have established income, but if they don't test new products, they'll never know if those new products are going to sell even better than the old products. So they can't just go off a continuous history of sales for a product and assume that that's the best model. They always have to be testing new products. And so when you have a new product, it's given the benefit of the doubt through the honeymoon period, but it doesn't mean you can't optimize and sort of get it retested. And that's something that I think a lot of people miss, is they put a product out there, they launch and they're like, oh, well, it's doing 15 sales a day. And it's just going to chug along doing 15 sales a day for however long. And well, it's been doing 15 sales a day for the past 6 months, but there's no reason why that 15 sales a day can't jump to 100 sales a day if you just go through and take the time to test different items. Price point, title, and image main image being the biggest ones. But like we've seen it so many times where it's just, a couple minor tweaks here and there, and it makes all the difference in the world. And it's comparatively such low hanging fruit. You already have the product, you already have the inventory. Like you just need to play with a couple of different things. And so it's the optimization of the listing, but also it's looking at like ASIN targeting with sponsored ads. Sponsors use this like bonus thing, and you'd have people that are like, no, I don't do sponsored ads. Like, oh, why would I pay for that? And it's like sponsored ads is so important, and having a strategy in place for sponsored ads and knowing who your competition is and doing your ASIN targeting correctly, and being on top of that. Like it used to be we would split that role with the account manager and we would just run like some automation with some rules in the background. And then like, I don't know, a year ago, we were like, we're kind of a little late to it, but we need a full-time person doing just PPC. And once we started like playing with that made a ton of difference. And all that stuff can happen so fast. The optimization can happen really fast. And also, the changes with sponsored ads can happen so fast. You already have gone through the effort of sourcing the product, getting the product. And like, that's such a huge hurdle. And you're just talking about like little minor tweaks that can make the biggest difference. And so it's like, if you do things, and especially if you do those two things together. And so if you do a small change to your listing and at the same time you launch a bunch of PPC that's specifically ASIN targeted. Now what you're telling the algorithm is, hey, I've made this change and hey, it makes all the difference in the world. And then Amazon goes, this is interesting. Now is so much better than it was before. Maybe we should retest it in all these different places that we had written it off from based on that historical data. But we got to go through and we got to test anyway. So we might as well test this one. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Guys, like maybe to just dumb down the language a little bit, like Amazon is a platform, right? And Amazon's job is to show the customer a product that the customer is most likely going to buy, because every single time Amazon makes a sale, every single time you make a sale, Amazon actually make more money. Am I lagging by any chance?
I don't think so.
No, I'm not. Am I lagging? Oh wait, weird. My yeah, I'm looking at my face is like super laggy. Yes, I am lagging. Huh. Okay, I'm good. Anyways, so what Troy is saying is like when you first list your product up on Amazon, you do all these changes, you rank it and so on and so forth. You're doing 15 sales a day and you just leave it as is. But then when you make certain changes, you're kind of telling Amazon like, hey, like I made these changes. Do you think you should retest me? Do you think, you put me in here, put me in there? And Amazon's internal algorithm is now going to start changing or start showing you different places for the sake of testing. They're not going to guarantee you that you're going to make money right away, but they're going to be like, okay, well, you made this change. Let me see what happens if I put you here. Let me see what happens if I put you there. And if people start reacting positively, if customers are starting to react positively to these changes, then you're going to increase your sales. And if customers are not, then you're going to stay where you are, and so on and so forth. So, and that's so funny today because this morning I did a Facebook Live in the Facebook group, literally talking about split testing and how important it is to split test. What would you say, like on a scale of, let's say, the top 3 most important things to split test? You said main image is one of them. What are
main image, price point, and your title are going to be your 3 biggest things. Along with like, it's critical to know. Well, at least in supplements, it's critical to know at what volume of reviews and what star rating your tipping points are, where you're volatile. Like in a launch, we know very specifically, and we test it through, we'll run different polling methods through PickFu or some other different polling places. We'll know exactly, well, as near as we can guess, how long we have to maintain a 5-star review rating before we can drop the 4.5 stars and still be accepted. Because if you drop to 4.5 stars too soon, you're basically over and done with, and you might as well recall the product and restart, because you're only going to get to a certain point, and then you've just got to build up this massive reviews before you can go through and try and make another push and gain more spaces. So if you have the ability to test for it as well, that's what so main image, title, price point, and then kind of knowing where your tipping point is with reviews. And it's different in different markets. Like we know that we can get away with 4 stars or 4.5 stars pretty early on with, some of our other product lines. It just doesn't work that way with the supplements.
Interesting. So have you launched a new product recently? When's the last time you launched? Yeah.
Well, you talking about like, so this is actually another discussion we were having with my team, because I was like, I think there's some things we need to explore. We had a little back and forth, and they're like, you think you could do it? And it's kind of like, when your dad comes out and he's like, oh, I could still beat you in basketball. And, and so I'm like, I could still take you guys. And so I'm going to be launching one of our next products myself.
Oh,
when it's like, I haven't actually been at the helm for probably 2 years, maybe 2.5 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So what would you say, but you guys still have kind of like a play-by-play strategy? What would you say kind of like overall, like what, so you got your product live, like what, obviously you got your photos ready, you got your EBC and everything's ready to go. What do you do first? Do you turn on PPC? Do you do ASIN targeting right away? Do you wait until you get reviews? Do you enroll in the buying program? All that type of stuff. You have a Facebook group that you promote your product to. You have an email list. Talk to us about the.
It's a combination of many of those things. One of the things we've sort of determined is that Amazon really likes having a large amount or a diversity of traffic sources. And so we just end up kind of layering them in over time. And so we'll go from Google or Facebook groups and just like sending traffic. There's different deal sites, there's coupon sites, there's sending emails out to bloggers that are in the niche or, influencer marketing. There's a whole list of stuff, and it like you just kind of go through one at a time, and you're like, okay, like I'm gonna kind of figure out at least a little bit of what this is, and figure out sort of a process of how to do it. I'm gonna figure out a little bit of how to do this. I would say the biggest thing you need to do is before you launch, like have your listing as optimized as it can be prior to launch, because like for no other reason than Amazon doesn't have that historical data. And so you get the benefit of the doubt, and it is going to run its series of tests. And if enough of those go well, then your product is going to sell well. But if your listing isn't optimized out of the gate, or as much as you can optimize it out of the gate, then it's going to fail these tests, and it's going to build up this historical data of failing all of these tested spots. And it's going to be much harder to overcome it in the future. Not like much harder comparatively to not having that data in place.
Yeah, like I can't stress that point enough. It's like I've seen some students, so I've looked at their listings, they just launched their product and they don't have their photos ready. They don't have their copywriting ready. They're like, oh, it's coming. You had the time when your product was shipping from China to Amazon. That takes like 3 months, like a month or two. So it's like, what were you doing during that time? Like it's not just like, oh, like it's shipping, I don't have anything to do. It's like, that is crunch time. That is the time that you need to build your foundation. Without a proper foundation, when you go ranking, it's never Amazon's not gonna want to put you on page one. And if Amazon doesn't want to put you on page one, kind of what Troy said, you already failed the test. So it's harder for you to prove to Amazon now. And it's just gonna take more effort, take more money, take more yada yada. So make sure everything's ready. But how do you, for reviews, right? Like, it's always kind of like chicken and egg, right? Like, oh, just go launch right away, because then as you get organic sales, reviews will come in. And then the other argument is, no, you want to get a few reviews first, so you have social proof, so that when you do launch, you have a higher likelihood to stick on page one. But then the downside of that is that you're kind of like waiting for the reviews to come in, and you know how Amazon is with reviews. Sometimes it comes in, sometimes it doesn't come in. So what are your thoughts regarding like review first, or just go balls to the walls and rank it first?
I always opt for just going for reviews first. If Amazon wants to like put you out in some sort of a test category, like every now and then you'll see a real big like just spike in sales for no explained reason. And that's just going to happen. But we do usually between 3 weeks and 4 weeks of just sort of a review gathering phase where we have it out there. We're just not pushing it very hard, but we're just, we're going through our methodologies of gaining reviews just to get sort of that critical mass that we feel is necessary to make the big push and to be able to stick once we make that big push. And we don't want to waste all that money and waste all that effort until we think that we're actually going to hang out, in sort of the positions that we want to and make the sales that we want to. So it's worth the time and effort to just gather the reviews and make sure you have that quantity that's necessary.
Got it. So what would you say? So kind of going back to product research, I guess, like one of the methodologies I teach my students is like, you go on Amazon. Let's say there's a product that you want to sell. Let's say it's vitamin C serum. On page one, you click the review on Viral Launch or Jungle Scout, whatever you guys use. And you want to make sure that people with low reviews are also making good money on Amazon, because there's so many products where only the top heavy reviews are making money and no one else is. Don't touch that product, because other people with low reviews aren't making money. I'm not saying you can't, because sometimes you have a crazy product offering, but it's not a good sign. So I like to see products where even low reviews can kind of make good money. And I guess that's kind of like with your methodology, is like, hey, this competitor has 50 reviews. They're making 20K a month. We need to get 50 reviews and maybe we can make 20K a month. That type of thinking process, right?
Yeah, for sure. We're definitely like I forget the numbers exactly, but part of our analysis process when we're just researching products is making sure, as you said, that the dollar volume is spread out. Like we're looking for people that are making I think the number is $15,000. So if they're doing at least $15,000 in sales, a certain amount of them on page one, then that's what we're looking for to even consider that product. If it's just, like you said, if it's just the top one or two brands that have been there, since for the past 5 years, if they're making all the money in that niche, then it's probably not worth our effort to try and catch them. And so it's a combination of, is there enough spread over, is the money spread out over enough of the top listings? And ideally is the niche a little bit younger than some of the others? Like we don't want to see, too many dominant established older players in any product that we're going after. That doesn't necessarily stop us because we're playing a longer game. Right. But, at least 2 years ago when we started doing stuff like that, we were looking for much softer markets to try and penetrate into. Yeah,
totally. So how big is your team now? Must have a pretty big team.
I think we're at 15.
Okay.
And I'll be right now we're bringing on another 3 people in the next week or so, 2 weeks.
Yeah. Okay. What do these 15 people do? What are their responsibilities?
The majority of our Amazon teams are split in a way that we have one person that kind of runs point for a brand as account manager. We have a PPC person, and then we have somebody that does inventory management and procurement. And then customer service is split out to cover multiple brands at the same time, as is graphic design. And so that's kind of how our teams are leveraged. And if and some people cover multiple brands.
What was your first 3 hires?
I hired a general VA who he did customer service and inventory management. Oh man, we're going back. Okay, well, I hired 1 or 2 people that didn't work out, but the guy who was stuck, he ended up doing customer service and inventory management. He's still there today, and I think he's been with me 5 years at this point.
Oh wow! In overseas or?
Yep, overseas. Everybody that works for me is in the Philippines.
Everybody.
Oh
my God! Wow, that's crazy. Do they work graveyard, or how does the shift work? Like when do you talk to them?
Everybody's required to be online Monday through Friday between 7 a.m. and 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and the rest of their time is flex. They can do it whenever they want, but at least that way we have some overlap and we can have some team meetings and we can do, whatever we need to do. And then at the same time, then everybody logs off at 11 a.m. and I can do whatever I need to do, or at least they're not bugging me.
Mm-hmm. Where do you use onlinejobs.ph, that website, or what do you use to hire people in the Philippines?
We've had a lot of success through onlinejobs.ph. That was where I found my original 2 or 3 people that have been with me. But beyond that, we've done referrals from guys that are already on the team, because I want them to have fun with the people that they work with, and I have people that they know with us as well. We've also used a recruiting agency called Multiply Me. I don't know if you've heard of them.
No,
but they've done decently well for us. Yeah, when you start wanting to hire people that are a little bit more specialized and stuff like that, onlinejobs.ph was really good for people that were, I don't know, I would say mid-20s, finding them. But and you can find a lot of smart people kind of in that group. But if you wanted people that were more experienced and more diligent, like when I was looking for a COO or when I was looking for an executive assistant that had legit experience, it was tough to find that kind of candidate through the typical online job portals. And so we had to go to a recruiting agency.
Got it. What type of I think it's really important as a leader to give your team metrics and goals, right? And especially if they're overseas, because in person, at least hey, you can create the culture, you can see them, you can go out for lunch. But overseas, they're kind of at home. And if there's not really a grand vision, if they don't really know where it's going, then they kind of fall off, and that can create a bunch of problems. What type of goals and what type of metrics it can be general. It can be like one of our metrics, like this year's revenue, or this is how many product we're going to launch. Like, what are the type of metrics that you have set for your team?
I mean, it starts with deciding what exactly you want to do, and it's going to vary a little bit from the business. Sometimes you got to drive growth. You just got to drive revenue and sort of building out that footprint of the business. But then next year comes along, and you got to ratchet it down. You go like, hey, we got to look at maintaining this growth, but we have to we get a bottom line a bit more, and so we're going to focus a little bit more on net profit, and we're going to focus a little bit more on on trimming costs and various things. We're going to renegotiate some of our contracts. We're going to see if we can smooth out some logistics, and we're going to, see if we can bring our A costs down, and so we can improve our bottom line. And so it's this kind of like, I don't know if anybody's a weightlifter there, but it's like bulk and cut phase that we go through as we're doing a lot of stuff. And so as that sort of trickles down to the team, we'll give them sort of a weekly KPI report based on whatever goals they're trying to hit. But then but that's just like a soft report. And then they get a monthly report that is like their actual report, and they'll get a small bonus based on their performance monthly, and if they're hitting targets. And then there's a bigger bonus quarterly. And we also try and we've also worked it where they're supposed to work at a team. So it's like the business unit. And so it's those 3 people on that team that I talked about, that they are working and performing together. And then we also jockey the teams back, like against each other. And so there's prizes depending who's putting up the most. Yeah.
Right. So you're really like incentivizing and gamifying the experience essentially.
We try to gamify it. And like this, as soon as, when the pandemic hit, it kind of screwed me over a little bit, but we wanted to do like a big company retreat and do like, vacation packages for the winning team and stuff like that. But that stuff's going to have to wait. But all very friendly. And so we also do, so every Monday we have an all hands meeting where everybody shows up for an hour, and it's fairly informal. It's a little bit of like company updates and company reporting and stuff like that, but it's also every select member, and we will have something where they have to talk to themselves or show pictures of work, or who are the members of their family. We try and get everybody relating to each other. And we haven't done a good job at this, but so last year I wanted to start doing a poker night with everybody, and that kind of didn't happen, but I would like to start seeing that happen this year. But also, we did a holiday party. And so we all sort of sat around on Zoom and like just chatted, and like, they tell me about what happens in the Philippines for the holidays and stuff like that. It's not the same as having everybody there in person, but it, you make it as good as you can. And
right.
You spend a lot of time with these people, and, you want to see good things happen for them and in their life. And in turn, they're giving you a lot of time and effort, and everybody, you want everybody to be rewarded in the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, when we sold our business, like our the only hire that we have out of Philippines is our customer service, and we decided to give her like a nice little bonus, and she was like and after conversion, it was quite a bit of money there, and she was like so grateful. And then like I think that's one of the things, guys, is like entrepreneurs. I think a lot of you right now are kind of in the stage of like building up your own business and so on and so forth. And I was in that stage, and Troy was in that stage. Like we did everything ourselves, but at one point or another, you have to actually start hiring people. And I think that's a really cool enjoyment of entrepreneurship, where you can now offer other people opportunities, where they can work at an organization. You're literally creating jobs. Like that's actually what you're doing. And it's just really fulfilling from that sense, where that there's other people out there that kind of relies on you. So that also kind of give me the pressure to be like, hey, like don't screw this up. Like there's people now that rely on you. So it's kind of like a cool feedback loop. And yeah, I've just actually been really enjoying that part of the business. Like from the core side of things, with Sdara, we only had like a handful of people. Actually, we didn't really have that many people, because we're in this weird position where like, hey, we're gonna sell, and then we're not gonna sell. We're gonna sell. We're not gonna sell. Like you can't hire someone for 3 months and then fire them. It's just not good optics. Yeah, and then like But with the course side of things, like we've been hiring a lot of people, and it's cool. It's like a very, very cool experience. But obviously this COVID thing, it's, you know, mess everything up. I would love to like do events and like that, and so on and so forth. I'm curious though, for example, like for your COO, and you said you have bonuses, like how do they hit their bonus? Is that bonus based on like a revenue like how does that work, or is it very personalized to their role?
It's largely it's gross profit we end up aiming for.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Like it's easier to report the revenue on our weekly basis, but then we go into gross profit for a fly or something. We go into gross profit for our monthly KPI reporting. And yeah, but so if we break down into it further, even though gross profit is their goal, we will then look at, okay, well, how has research been going? Like when we start planning the year, sorry, I'm going to stumble on this one a little bit. So when we start planning the year, what we look at is how much do we want to grow? And how much of that do we think is going to come from launching new products? And how much of that do we think is going to come from optimization? Mm-hmm. Okay. And so then that sort of gives us our optimization targets by quarter, how much we're going to have to optimize and if we're going to hit those numbers or not. And then the remainder of that becomes product launches. And when we're breaking down product launches, we want to see how much research has gone into a product launch previously. And so if that means we sort of go through the due diligence and research process, like once we sort of identify like, hey, we think this is a good product, right. Like how far does it go? And a certain amount of those will drop off. Mm-hmm. And so with one business, I know it's like a 3-to-1 sort of thing from when we sort of identify the product, and most of them drop off because we can't make our margins work the way that we want to make them work. Mm-hmm. And so it's usually, I think for all the businesses, it falls usually between 3 and 5. And so if you want to launch, if you want to launch 5 products in a year, then, and if you know it's a 5-to-1 ratio, you know that you have to be doing serious research on 25 different products over the course of that year. You got to be doing due diligence on it. And so you just break it down, and then suddenly you have your monthly targets, and you have your weekly targets, and you know exactly kind of where you need to be to see if you're on track. And then you can adjust along the way. If you get to Q2 and you find out it's way off, you can change it.
Yeah. So I guess really to sum it up, you have the grand vision, and then how much is it coming from new revenue, so new products, and how much is it coming from old revenue, so existing products. If we can increase the existing products conversion rate for this product, ASIN by ASIN level, I assume that you go in. So this ASIN is doing, like, do you do ASIN by ASIN?
It starts a little bit broader, but then you start looking, you kind of go down the rabbit hole. Right. It's just a process. I mean, it's, right. We're doing, this is kind of our Q3 is digging into what we think the following year is going to look like. Mm-hmm. And
very interesting, guys. This is some like high level stuff that I don't think a lot of like Amazon sellers talk about, but at the end of the day, this is like the really important business stuff. I know it's not that sexy. I know it's not like, oh, I want reviews and ranking and this and that, but like you're running a real business here, and real business, like you need to plan. You need to plan. Without planning, you're going to fail. I love this quote. It says, without a target, you're going to fail every single time. Without a target, you're going to miss every single time. So I'm really trying to encourage all my students to just be like, what is your target? Like, at the end of this year, guys, I really want you guys to think about this question, guys. At the end of this year, what would be like, in terms of just your Amazon stuff, I'm talking about your health or your other stuff, right? That's completely separate. You can talk to Troy about that. He used to be in, but you're in good shape still right away, right?
Trying to be.
Yeah.
It's harder than it used to be, but I'm trying.
Yeah. But at the end of the year, 2021, what would consider like a A? Like, I did really well. I'm really happy with this. What would the revenue be on Amazon? What would you be really happy about for? And work backwards. Be like, okay, well, if $50,000 a month on Amazon is going to make me really happy. Okay, how can I achieve $50,000 a month? I really think, guys, like it's so critical to ask the right questions, because by asking the right questions, you can find the answers. Now with our cell phone, with Google, with YouTube, with Facebook group right in front of us, we can actually find the answer to almost anything. But the hard part is not finding the answer. The hard part is actually asking the right questions that lead you to the right answers. But the only way that you can ask the right questions, if you really do, is if you do critical thinking and you have enough wealth and knowledge to really ask these questions. Like a little ant doesn't ask like, oh, I wonder what, like how to sell on Amazon. I don't think that's what they ask themselves, right? They're probably like finding their own like food and so on and so forth. But I think asking the right questions is really, really important. What is PPC, right? What is an ASIN? Well, Google that real quick. What is an ASIN? What is PPC, right? Oh, PPC stands for pay-per-click. I wonder how that works. How does PPC work? So each question you ask, you start really digging a little bit deeper in the rabbit hole. And it's not like Tom, that's, if there's one thing you guys can take away from this course is that I think entrepreneurship really, and Troy, I'm sure you can, agree with me here, is that you're literally just being like a firefighter, putting out fires. There's never like, you've been doing this for freaking 8 years. Are you still putting out fires like on a daily basis? There's still challenges. It's easier, but like talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, there's still challenges. I mean, they do change. Fortunately or unfortunately, many of my challenges now have shifted more to like, personnel and motivation and how can I, keep people doing their thing. And it's less, I'm less in the trenches and less tactical than I used to be. But I mean, there's still stuff coming up all the time. Like we have ASINs down almost every single day for one reason or another. And so it was, there's always troubleshooting to be done. And there's always people who, didn't do all of their work, or there's human error that crops up. Like nothing is ever going to work perfectly. And it's just kind of like, I guess at the point you just kind of, you accept that as part of it. Like I think of it less as being a firefighter and more of like being a problem solver, a mystery solver, or, looking for creative solutions to problems. It's just kind of part of my day. And funny enough, it was actually one of the conversations that I was having is like, we need to like it used to just be, I would be available for 2 hours of time for questions and troubleshooting and stuff like that. And now it's crept into like a 4-hour chunk. I seem to be doing it each day. I'm like, this is too much. Like I can't, it's really hard to drive the bus when I'm looking in the rearview mirror and like whacking the kids the whole time. So it's like, we gotta change this up, but we gotta try and put a container around how many, how these problems keep popping up and how we're going to crowdsource a solution and see if you guys can remove me a little bit further.
Yeah. And I think in Journey of Entrepreneur, there's actually there's different phases that we go through as an entrepreneur, just like as a human being. Like we went through different phases. You got your kids, teenager years and this year, and you go through different phases. And I think for entrepreneurship, it's very much the same thing. At the very beginning of entrepreneurship, it was just like hard hustle, grind, sleepless nights, like just, I'm not going to make it. Like, am I ever going to make it? Oh, I am going to make it. Oh, wait, I'm not going to make it. Just, it's an emotional roller coaster. And then you move on to the next phase, which is like, now you start picking up some traction. You're like, wow, like I am actually going to make it. And then a challenge comes, and then you start hiring other people to help you with that. And you go through different phases. And I think it's really important for all of you to recognize which phase you guys are in, because each phase requires a different skill set. Each phase requires different type of, you got to adapt, right? You can't act like a teenager when you're like 42, right? Whatever it might be. So it's just, yeah, it's recognizing which phase of the entrepreneurship journey you're in and making sure that you're focusing all your attention on that, being self-aware enough to know what you need to do to get things done in that phase, and then you move on to the next phase. And it's a journey.
It is a journey. And like, I mean, it's exciting from this idea when you start realizing what you were just saying, and you step back and you're like, well, wait a minute, like, where do I want to go? Who do I want to become? And what's going to have to happen for me to be able to be that person, like to be that leader, or to be that investor or something like that. And so I have to get to a certain phase of like technical mastery. And then I need to learn how to work with teams and motivate my teams. And then I need to progress to a new level, whether that's investor or visionary for your business, or some other aspect. But there's a definite sort of ascension. And if you start looking at where you want to go, eventually you can start putting those individual blocks in place, and suddenly you have a roadmap, you have a plan.
Yeah, for sure. Well, actually, one question I think a lot of people have is like, you have 5 brands. Do you run them on one store, or are they 5 separate businesses? You have 5 logins. How does it work?
Yeah, they're separate. They're as separate as I could possibly make them. They just from like a protection standpoint, the admin accounts live on completely separate PCs through VPNs, so they don't connect to Amazon through the same IP address, or contain the same footprint. And then
so you're like just freaking like,
yeah, like
I don't about that, hey?
I don't want to like have a problem with one of my accounts suddenly take down all of them. And so, I mean, we haven't, there's been no breaking of the law or anything like that. We just, we do everything to make sure that there's no automated process that Amazon's running that will kind of, take everything down sort of sequentially, and try and keep everything as separate as we possibly can.
Yeah. Fair enough. Cool. Well, I think we have 15 minutes. If anybody have any questions, I think this is a good time to ask. I know Troy has generously taken, he's a dad as well, and he's a husband, and this is usually kids and mommy time, and he was able to carve out tonight's time, and this is very generous of him to give us his time. So, and he's very busy as well, so I really appreciate that. And I'm sure 260, darn it, we're close, but 260 of us, we're very appreciative of your time as well. By the way, are you in California, or are you in Washington, or where are you?
Yeah, I'm in California right now.
Oh, it's just the rain, and then you go back to California, and then you go back to Washington during the summer?
Yeah, we stayed in Washington a lot longer than we sort of intended to, just because like we have more land up there. And so it was kind of better overall for the kids. California's really locked down due to the pandemic. There's not that much going on here, but then when it starts to snow in Washington, and suddenly you're inside a lot, and the weather's not so nice, then the kids feel a little cooped up, and suddenly it's back to California we go, and at least they can go outside and play, and the beaches are open here, even though it's not super hot. It's a lot warmer than it was, in Washington.
Yeah, so, yeah, for sure. I'll just read some questions out to you, and you can just maybe just quick rapid fire. We'll try to get us through as many questions as possible.
Sure.
RS asks, is there a product market that you never expected yourself to get into that you're in now?
I think supplements in general, like I never would have thought that would have gone into supplements in general. The other things we got into were much more strategic, just because I just looked for stuff that was like evergreen, or like I wanted to avoid all the red tape that I got myself into with supplements. And I just wanted to sell stuff that was easy. And so that was part of the selection process was, I didn't want to deal with anything that was sort of federally regulated to the level that supplements are. And I didn't want to deal with anything ingestible, anything topical. I just wanted to find like regular physical products and supplements has a problem that other products don't. Like there's a lot of other websites that you can start cross-selling your products on. Once you sort of get your footing underneath you with Amazon, you can start going to Walmart and eBay and Newegg and Wish and all these other marketplaces that do exist out there that have their own customer. And it's just supplements is harder to kind of cross that gap with, whereas other products do it pretty easily.
Are you on like Walmart and stuff like that, or?
Yeah.
How does it do?
Nowhere close to what Amazon does. But in some instances, or with some products, we sell more on Walmart than we do on Amazon.
Oh, wow.
Even though Amazon does have the larger piece of the pie.
Mm-hmm.
God willing, would become a 7-figure seller on Walmart this year, which was, it's just like an undertaking. You're like, why is this so slow?
Is it a similar process as Amazon? You send everything into their warehouse, you create a listing, and that's that.
We're right now on the waiting list. They rolled out Walmart fulfillment services. I don't know, a couple of months ago, and I guess it's my own fault. I was really hesitant about jumping on because I'd heard such horror stories with Deliverr and Deliverr.
We haven't. Our students didn't get good. It wasn't. I recommended Deliverr because I heard from another referral, but some of the students didn't really have the best experience.
And that's Walmart's fault too. They just sort of hitched their wagon to Deliverr, and then like all these people started having problems, and everybody was kind of stuck because they were the go-to fulfillment center for Walmart. But Walmart has since rolled out Walmart fulfillment services, and I'm not exactly sure how they've done it. I don't think they've been acquiring warehouses. I think they've essentially been co-branding with other fulfillment centers across the U.S. and I don't know, with an intention to buy, but whatever. We're on the waiting list for WFS.
Got it. Tony asked a very good question.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk more about review harvesting?
Review harvesting. What exactly do you mean by review harvesting?
I don't know. You tell us. You said it. You said for the first like 2 weeks to 3 weeks, you do some review harvesting.
Just trying to hit that critical mass point.
Sorry?
Just trying to hit that critical mass point wherever you think you're going to be competitive with a quantity of reviews. And it's going to vary from product to product, depending on where you want to rank among the top competition. And so the idea was to run a series of polls against the competition. So if the competition had 500 reviews, then you could go through and you could start polling for where that tipping point is for that product with like, maybe it's 400 reviews, but maybe they have 4 stars and you have 4.5, or maybe it's 350 or something like that. And trying to play with that combination so you find out where that is, or maybe you're a slightly cheaper price. So maybe at 400 reviews, you're competitive, or, but you got to be $3 cheaper or something like that. And so trying to sort of dial that in and figure out where that tipping point is going to be.
Sorry, where do you do that on?
We do a certain amount of polling at PickFu. There's a few other sites out there. I think PickFu is probably the biggest. And then a few other sellers and I have put together a proprietary solution.
Interesting.
Sorry, I wish I could share that.
No, all good.
But yeah, like we also go to, depending on the brand, if we have a large enough sort of customer list, we can do it that way. We did previously do it by running some asking Facebook groups. Like we built our own for some, and then some groups were nice enough that we could just ask the group, even if it wasn't our group. It just depends on the group and their politics and how long you've been there and stuff.
Got it. Anita asks, how many supplements do you have on your site, and do you have them all produced in the USA?
Yes, they're all in the USA, and I think we're at 17 or 18, I think, currently.
Mm-hmm. Christina asks, can you share a valuable lesson you learned from a very simple mistake you made?
Oh my gosh. Make sure you learn how to calculate margin correctly. We screwed that up. We sold something and I was like, I don't think we're making money on this. And it took me a while. And then I was like, it turns out we were selling it at a loss, and we sold it at a loss for, I don't know, 2,000 units or something like that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep.
So next Wednesday, if you guys want to know how to calculate margins correctly, Charity is going to be doing a live demo. Charity is like my CFO. Charity is going to be doing a live demo of how do you calculate your margins? How do you count all the costs? Essentially kind of like a bookkeeping 101, bookkeeping for newbies. So next Wednesday, make sure you guys hop on. We're going to be talking about margins is really important, right? Like, yeah, I think I made a similar mistake as you before, where I thought I was selling well. My Seller Central app was telling me it's selling well, and my BSR was well. And then at the end, I actually ended up losing money. I'm like, What the hell? What happened here? And then it turns out that we got hit with this fee, or our PPC was too high, or until you can actually break every single category down and really measure them, you have no idea what's going on, right? It's like counting scores, right?
Yep.
Like basketball. Every single hoop is 2 points or 3 points or 1 point. If you can't count scores, how are you going to count your score for your own business? It's impossible. So yeah, next Wednesday is going to be on that.
So I'll give you one more. One other thing too is don't calculate your shipping based on the product size. Calculate it based on the retail package size. We at one point we made our box 1 centimeter too large and bumped ourselves up to the next shipping category, which cost us $5 or something extra out of the margin we weren't planning on spending towards towards shipping. So that'll come around to bite you too. So make sure you're looking at your retail box size and not just the product size when you're calculating shipping.
Absolutely. Yeah, I emphasize that quite a bit in the course because that has happened to some students. The worst is actually when it comes in a poly bag and the poly bag is kind of flimsy, right? So it's like a little corner sticking out where you can literally just like grab the thing and just like push it back in. But then the scanner at Amazon doesn't know that. So and then you get dinged for like it's pretty brutal. Carl asked, hey, Troy, what was a time or issue that you encountered during your journey that you really wanted to quit, but just had to stuck it out?
Ooh, okay. So, I mean, this is kind of an early on thing as well. It was during, okay. So I'm going to say this was early 2016 I had just bought a house. And nice neighborhood and, full remodel was going on and stuff like that. And our biggest seller at the time, which was like contributing the lion's share to profit, got suspended. And this is at a time, like people don't understand, like POAs weren't a thing. Like, product suspension wasn't big, didn't happen frequently. Nobody knew how to overcome it. You just got these canned responses from seller performance. And so I had this product down for, I don't know, I'm going to say about a month.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going to say it almost broke me. Like, I probably lost, and I mean, I was in deep to the contractor for a 6-figure amount. And, I had probably lost, $100,000 in just, sales and downtime. Like I was really like, oh my gosh, like I just bought this house and it's tore up and I'm going to lose it. And so, yeah, that was a very desperate sort of like 4 weeks of my life. And then, lo and behold, we got the product back, we came through and like, I was able to dig myself out a little bit over time, but yeah, that was a little scary. I was really worried about that.
That email when you get your account back is the, frame it on the wall.
Oh, dude, it was like, crack open the beer and just like, I'm like sobbing and like, and like, just leave me alone. Like, oh my gosh, it's going to be okay. We made it.
Yeah. It's funny because I know exactly what you're talking about. We also got our account suspended, the derma roller, which was making up majority of our business as well. And that's when I was like, man, that's when I thought I was just going to the moon. Like I quit my job in December. The business was doing like 30 grand a month. And then by April, we're doing like 200K a month. And it was just like, I was like, wow, this thing's easy. Like I should have quit my job earlier. And then just go boom, like hit us just like, oh man, like a whole account got suspended, got the email, like didn't know how to get it back. Like after like a month and a half or something like that with no income. Mm-hmm. Dude, I know exactly what you mean. That's
it's so deflating.
Yeah, that's probably the most brutal month and a half of my life. My girlfriend and I, we spent so much time building this thing, and then just got taken away from us. But yeah, whatever if it doesn't kill you, you come back stronger or whatever this thing is.
Find ways to like, all right, let's try and make sure that doesn't happen again, or like, let's see if we can spread the load over a few more products, or let's keep some more cash reserves. Yeah. Like, yep. There's a few different ways to sort of work against that one. Yeah, I think that was the biggest one. Or yeah, we'll go with that.
Sure. How did you resolve the issues from Black Hat Tactics? Did you just appeal through seller support, or how do you protect yourself?
They're usually appealing through seller support is the biggest one. It depends. It depends on when it occurred and what was allowed within terms of service at the time. Like it was voting reviews up and down was less of an issue at one point. The ability to get new reviews through selling discounted products was perfectly okay. Like you could sell a product for 99 cents for $1 and you could still do just fine with that. Trying to think what else. I think those are the biggest things. And then outside of that, like once you get to a certain point, like there's a few more channels that are available to us. Like one other just general sort of point is to, you'll along your journey, you'll meet people at Amazon and you'll talk to people at Amazon and like stay in touch with them because sometimes they help you. Or, we've had like for a while when I used a PPC agency, but that PPC agency had a contact over at Amazon. And it's like, hey, like as you build the network, the same thing with this network, like feel free to reach out to those people and say like, hey, can anybody help? And so it depends on what the issue is, but sometimes there's an avenue just through people who work at Amazon. Like if it's a black hat tactic and it's against their terms of service, then they will try and help you. You just have to be able to talk to the right person sometimes. Yeah.
Getting to the right person is super, super important. Like every single person that you talk to on Amazon, I feel like it's a completely different experience. And there's some people that are super, super helpful. Like they're on it. Some other people could give less of a crap. Okay, last question. RS asked, question, you mentioned having multiple traffic sources to drive traffic. Can you speak to the top 3 to 5 as combination that you've seen the most success with over the past launches?
Well, certainly past customers have been very helpful, but that's probably not what you're looking for. So Google traffic, Facebook traffic, and deal sites. Deal sites or coupon sites have probably been the biggest ones. Got it.
Awesome. Cool, guys. I think that's everything. I think that's it. So, well, Troy, I really appreciate your time. Like I said, we can definitely chat more about the acquisition stuff if you're interested in.
For sure.
Yeah, if you want to ask me some questions about my acquisition, I think I can share some useful stuff with you. But yeah, no, I think sorry guys, that's all the questions we have. Or that's all the time we have. So awesome, guys. Well, I really hope you guys enjoyed today's interview. And thank you again, Troy, for your time. I think people loved it. I think I had a lot of interviews in the past, but I really think we have like a lot of good compliments in this group. So thanks for going deep and sharing kind of the tactical things instead of being, very high level. So awesome. And tell the wife I said thank you as well.
I will. If anybody wants to reach out, I'm pretty easy to find on Facebook. Tom can, my name's Troy Romelski. There's probably just me out there. So feel free to reach out and say, hey, and
you have no idea what you just got yourself into. You're going to get 300 messages tonight.
Well, I stick them and I'll get back to everybody in good time. If you want to send me a question, I'm happy to answer.
Awesome.